Hello friends! Welcome back to Belle's Library! I am Heather and I am here to talk about the best books of 2020. So this is my personal reading for 2020 out of all the books that I read, what my favorites were. I don't know what that was. This year, or last year, I read 104 books, I believe it was, so I have a good chunk to choose from, and I narrowed it down to my top 13. I attempted to put these in order, so we're going to try to go from number 13 to number 1, although some of these were really hard to place, and I loved them all so much. So if you decide to read any of these, I really hope that you enjoy them because they were wonderful. But do remember, this is my own personal reading and my own personal favorites. Before we get started with number 13, if you guys have a moment and you would get down below and click subscribe. If you haven't yet, that would be amazing and wonderful and helpful. I would love to have you guys a part of my family here on BookTube, and let's go ahead and start at number 13. So number 13, I put The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. This is by Grady Hendrix, and I cannot wait to read more by him. Basically, we are following a group of 90s housewives as they have a new neighbor come into town, and one of the housewives just knows something is up with him and is wrong, and she believes that he is a vampire and that he is preying on some of the kids in a nearby poor area. And she's trying to convince everybody, and nobody wants to help her or believe her. And I just remember getting so mad at this book for so many different reasons. Like, there's so many things wrong with this book, but then I was like, okay, but it's the 90s, and I think that's what was meant. And when a book can make me have some kind of strong emotion like that, like, it's a good one. So definitely very much enjoyed this horror novel. And so if you like horror, I would pick this one up. It's not like super heavy on the gory, horror type side, but it does have a little bit. So, if you don't like any of that, then I wouldn't go for this one. And it does have like a little bit of suspenseful moments in there as well. So I thoroughly enjoyed this one, and it is at number 13. Number 12 is going to be The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This one kind of crept up on me. I enjoyed it when I read it, but the more I sat on it and thought about it, I was like, I really enjoyed this. I still think about it months later. As a kid, Clue was my favorite game to play. I love a good mystery, whodunit type style story, and this one is just perfect for that. You're basically following this wedding party on this not deserted island, but a very secluded island. There's only the one house out there that does these wedding venues. Somebody in the party ends up getting murdered, but you don't know who, so you haven't found out who got murdered, and you're just kind of following a whole bunch of the different guests, like the bridesmaid, the bride, the groom, just a bunch of them. The wedding planner that actually owns the place and does all the wedding planning out there. I think there's 6 people you're following. Try to figure out who did the murdering and who actually got murdered. And yeah, it was a fun ride. The twist at the end got me. I know it didn't get everybody, but I don't know, I totally was not expecting it. So yeah, definitely very much enjoyed it. The atmosphere was really fun on the island, and it was a good time. Apparently a bunch of mystery and horror and stuff is ending up in this list in this area. But number 11 for me was The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. And oh my gosh, I love this edition. So cute. Anyways, I listened to this one on audio actually, and I really loved it. At first, when it ended, I was just like, I don't know if I hated this, but then the more I thought about it, it just growed on me, and I love it. So there's a lot of just underlying themes, I feel like, afterwards where you're thinking about it and you're just like, oh yeah, this, oh yeah, okay. So definitely very much enjoyed this. It's a haunted house type story where we have a doctor who wants to go live in Hill House for a month, and he wants to do some observations and experiments and find out why everybody thinks this house is haunted and what's actually going on. And he invites a bunch of other people to come and stay with him there. And I think there ends up being, what is it, like 4 other people that come and stay with him. One of them is the son or nephew of the owner of the house. And then we also have a couple other people that maybe have had some other paranormal things happen in their life or whatever it is. But anyways, so they're staying in this house and you're just trying to kind of go along with some of their observations and what's happening. And it's just got this weird, creepy vibe going on. And then the end just kind of throws you for a little bit of a loop. And then you think about it more and you're just like, well, wait this, wait that. You know. So that one is my number 11. Okay, so now we're getting into the top 10 here. So at number 10, I have Incendiary by Zoraida Cordova. I have really enjoyed reading some of this author's work, and I definitely feel like this is her newest book, and it is the best out of the ones I've read so far by her. So this one has some really fun, witchy vibes. We are following Renata, who basically has to go back to the king's castle after she escaped when she was a kid, and she's kind of coming back as a spy for the resistance. And basically the king wants to eradicate all witches and anybody with magical powers, and she has magical powers, but he does keep one of each type of magical power in his court to do his bidding, basically. So she's like, oh, I didn't actually escape, I was taken and I made it back. And there's a lot of twisty turny, you don't know who's actually on whose side, kind of stuff. I really enjoyed this one. There definitely is a lot of intrigue. The ending threw me for a loop and I'm dying to get to the next book. So this one's number 10 for me. At number 9, I have Caraval by Stephanie Garber, and I just fell in love with this story. It is very lyrically written and very creative. Some of just the imaginativeness of this, it was so fun. I read this one in a vlog I was doing where I was reading a bunch of Circus books, and this one's not a super big circus, but it kind of is. Basically, we have these 2 sisters and they get invited to go to Legends Island, and every year he does this big audience participation event where the entire audience is trying to solve a mystery or win a task of some kind. So this year, one of the sisters gets kidnapped and everybody has to try and find her. And you have to remember during it that it's only a game, but then is it really only a game? Are these things actually happening? It just takes some turns. I don't know. I talk about this all the time, but one of my favorite scenes in here is of this dress that Scarlett wears, and it is gorgeous. It changes with her mood and the time of day, and so you're always just seeing all these different dresses throughout, and just really fun. At one point, she looks down and her dress is almost see-through and looks more like lingerie, and she freaks out and runs in her room. So it's just, I don't know, I just loved it. It was fun. And on the same vein of circusy books, this one I read in that blog as well, The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This book, oh, how to explain this book? You're following this circus that just appears at night, never tells anybody where it's going, and it just seems to be getting more and more big and different as it goes. And you also have a secret competition going on, but the 2 competitors don't know who they are, and you're following each of their perspectives in this book. And they don't even really know that they're in a competition, and it just... it's so beautiful. Erin Morgenstern's writing is so gorgeous, and her imagination, I don't know how she comes up with some of this stuff. All the different acts and stuff that they made in each of these tents in the circus, are just mind-blowing. Oh my gosh, so gorgeous. So loved this one. Apparently I decided to group a lot of my genres together in this list. I don't know how this happened, but anyways, where are we at? Okay, pretty sure this is number 7. And, oh, here's the first one, Renegades. So I read Renegades and Arch Enemies so far in this series, and this is by Marissa Meyer, and I'm going to get to Supernova in February, so it's happening. I need to just finish it because this is one of the first series I picked up in 2020. So it's been a long time coming. I need to get to the last book. I very much enjoy this story. It is about the renegades and the anarchists, and the renegades are considered like these heroes. They're the superheroes in this world, and they run the government and everything, and they're just like this amazing, like, you guys are the best kind of faction of superheroes. And then the anarchists are the opposite. They are like the evil side of it. They all have superpowers as well, but they're considered to be, you know, the bad guys. And then we have Nova, who is an anarchist, but she ends up infiltrating into the renegades to be a spy, and, you know, things get a little gray and muddied, and it is just wonderful and fantastic, and I loved it, and I cannot wait to continue in this series. Okay, so number 6 is Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This book took me for a ride. I didn't even read like the inside flap. I just had heard people on BookTube talking about it, and I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And I was curious about like the mixed media kind of format that this takes, and just seemed like a fun sci-fi novel. We are basically following, it's like after the events, and they're like accumulating all of these different media files and interviewing people and trying to figure out what happened when this force comes and invades on a planet, and then they all had to escape into ships, and they're trying to get back to like a home-based ship kind of thing. I'm not explaining this very well, but hopefully you get the general idea. There's so many twists and turns in here because I didn't, like, some of them are definitely given away on the flap. So if you've never read the flap, just don't read the flap. Just read the book, because it will take you on a ride, and it is fun and wonderful, and was very surprised by a lot of things in this book, and very pleasantly surprised, and it was just wonderful. If you guys want to see me reacting to this book, I do have it in a vlog, and I will put it up top, and you guys can check it out. Okay, top 5 time. Here we go. Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. This is my first Christina Lauren that I read this year. I've read 3 books by them now, and I just fell in love with it. I definitely cried at the end. I love second chance romance. Me and my husband are second chance romance, so maybe that kind of plays into it, but this follows our 2 main characters back when they were teenagers and they met, and then also in present day when they're like 30-ish, and they run into each other again, and like, so you're just like falling in love with them when they're younger, and then you're falling in love with them when they're older, and you find out what happens, and it's just like, I don't know. I just feel like Christina Lauren doing a really good job with their characters and making them feel like people, but then also just giving them like these fun little unique twists, and makes you believe in the love story a little bit more. And oh gosh, but this one definitely had some like really strong underlying topics with death and grief and parents, and it was definitely like hard hitting in that way, but I think that's why it made it more of a favorite for me. Okay, so I don't have the next couple books, so we'll have some pictures here. But number 4, I have House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. Oh my gosh, I could not stop smiling when I read this book. Oh my goodness. One of the other booktubers I watch, I think it was Riley Marie, she was like, oh, this book is like serotonin to the brain or something like that. And that is just like the perfect explanation. Like, you just, like, it's just like a hug. You're just cuddled into these characters, and they're just wonderful and amazing, and I loved it. So we're basically following a caseworker, and he goes around to all these orphanages, but they're orphanages that are for kids that have like some kind of magical power, or they're like a sprite or a fairy, or you know, something like that. And he gets classed with going to the most classified house, and it's out on this island in the Cerulean Sea, and you get to meet the kids there. Like, they just made this book. They were so stinking fun and cute. Like, oh my gosh, so cute. One of them's like a blob. One of them wants to be, well, the blob wants to be a bellhop. One of them is like a gnome. Yeah, it was so much fun to see him go out there and check on these kids and make sure they're good, but just fall in love with them and the island. And oh, yes, I just loved it. I just loved it. If you haven't read it, read it. NumberThree, both of these books, NumberFour and NumberThree, kind of slipped in here towards the end of the year, and I just am so happy that I read them. But NumberThree is The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. Oh, this book just like was something special. I fell in love with the characters. I absolutely loved Jonah and Kala and their relationship, and they were kind of like a hate to love, so you had some of that fun banter, and I don't know, I loved them. They were just so cute. What can I say about this book? So basically we're following Kala as she journeys to Alaska, and who has to pick her up but Jonah, who's this surly, grumpy pilot, and he is not happy about having to go and pick her up and bring her to Alaska to see her father, and she hasn't seen her father in years and years and years. Her mom left with her when she was like a baby. The father and her have been estranged for a long time. They used to talk on the phone, but things just fell away, and she ends up getting this call saying like, you should come to Alaska, your dad's sick, and so she decides to go. And then, you know, we kind of are following some of that, which I think really gives something to the story and adds some depth. And you're following this, you know, father-daughter relationship as they're trying to figure out how to be in a relationship. But then you're also getting a little bit of Jonah and Kala and their banter and how they kind of grow to and like each other and everything like that. It's just, I loved it. Like, that one really like snuck in there, and I've just been thoroughly enjoying that one. Okay, we're down to the last two, which honestly, I don't think this one's going to be surprising to anybody. The Ember and the Ashes series by Saba Tahir. I have read the first 3 books, and the 4th one I am reading in February. We are going to wrap this series up. I am super excited. This book, or this series, is just, it's got a special spot in my heart. I've been reading it all year, and I've just been loving it. It has so many different like kind of plot lines and different stuff pulling into it that just keep it like going and very intriguing. And the main characters all have changed so much throughout this series. And I just like the way I felt about them in the first book compared to by the end of the 3rd book are just like super, super different. It's just crazy. Like, where your mind goes with some of this stuff. I don't know. It's just nuts. But I'll tell you about An Ember in the Ashes. So An Ember in the Ashes follows Laia as she infiltrates into the Empire's school where they train all of the masks, who are like the soldiers that keep everybody kind of in line, and she becomes a slave in the commandant's house so that she can find out more information for the resistance, so they will help her get her brother back who has been taken to prison. Then we have Elias, who is like the top mask in the school, and he just wants to get away, but obviously it's a little more complicated than that, and he doesn't quite get away, but Elias and Laia run into each other quite often, and it's just kind of their story in trying to figure out what is right and wrong in this world. And then we have Helene, and she's not as predominant in this book as she becomes, but she's definitely a very big character. And oh my gosh, she's Elias's best friend. She doesn't agree with some of the things that Elias is doing. She's kind of your very like brown nose type person. Like, she's very like rules driven, like, no, this is the way it is, this is the way we're gonna keep it, like, I'm here to make sure that it stays that way, kind of a thing. She's very black and white in the beginning. I always have a hard time like explaining exactly what this book is because now that I've read so much of it, there's just so much going on in here. Okay, and the top #1 book of the year is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm pretty sure that everybody has had this in their top books at some time or another. It just is a wonderful book. I like bawled my eyes out at the end of this one. Oh my gosh, it took me for a ride. But you just like, you fall in love with Taylor Jenkins Reid's characters. Like they are so real. You think that they are real. You want to go and search them up like they're actual people. And it is just crazy that they're not. And oh man. So we're basically following the life of Evelyn Hugo as we journey through basically her 7 husbands that she's had. That tells her life. And she's telling her life story to this reporter and getting it out there. So you're seeing love and loss and hurt and just, oh my gosh. Oh. Anyways, totally like loved this story and I love these characters and I want to reread this one so bad. Maybe this one will be another February read. You guys are going to know my whole TBR in a minute. So yes, if you pick up any book from all of this, pick this one up. It is so good and I don't even know what else to say about it. It's just amazing, 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 amazing. Taylor Jenkins Reid became like favorite author instantly with this book. Like I'm so excited for anything else she releases. I'm working through her backlist. Oh, so good. Okay, so there you have it. Those were my best books of 2020. I am super excited that I got to share with you all those 13 books, and I really hope that you guys will stick around and join the family. If you guys made it this far, then give me a flower emoji down in the comments. And also, if you guys want, let me know some of your favorite books from the last year, and I would love to know so I can put some more books on my TBR. Talk to you guys soon.